one thing that we as a staff really wanted to do is to, I don't know, I assume you guys have noticed this, but there's been a lot of changes, or even with specifically with Jake and Megan leaving, just hey, what's Ichthus gonna look like in the future? What's going on, And so we want to take this time, hopefully 15 minutes or so, to just kind of lay it out for you guys, and just be hey, this is kind of what God's been doing in this church over the last year, and this is where we feel like He's leading us. And obviously, let's all be a part of this together. So that's kind of what I'm going to try to do right here. The first thing, so I've been really into Winston Churchill this summer. You guys, anyways, there's a really good book. If you're interested in history, it's called God and Churchill. And pretty much a guy tries to prove. Have you read it?
Is it God and Hamilton?
God and Hamilton.
Don't read that book. Don't read that book.
Don't read that book. It's terrible.
Over 10,000 copies sold.
But anyways,
I love that book.
Winston Churchill. Hey, quiet down. We gotta actually get through this. So Winston Churchill, I've been super into him. So I read a book. We were in New York, and I read his book, God and Churchill, throughout the trip. And fantastic book. But he has a quote that I just love. He says, "To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often." And I think change can get kind of uncomfortable for us in America. I mean, for what all Anna's talking about, where we kind of get in our comfortable spots, and we're this is kind of how we do things, and we're just going to kind of do it, and we're never going to change. That's not this ministry. In this church, we really believe that the Holy Spirit leads us and changes us and matures us over time, and we are willing to change whatever needs to be changed in order to be in line with God's will whenever that needs to happen. And so that's kind of what God's been doing over the last 12 months. So about 12 months ago, we came together as a staff, Jake included, and we really felt like the word God was giving us was the foundations are being shaken. Foundations are being shaken. And at the time, we just knew that word, and we're well, we'll see how the year goes. But it's kind of a, potentially a scary word, that the foundations are being shaken. And so it's funny, because I don't know if you guys felt that shaking last year, over the last 12 months, but that's been what's been going on in our own personal lives as a staff and as a church. So the last 12 months, our hearts were shaken probably more than anything. God kind of has taken our hearts and been shaken, and everything that was not good has kind of been being burned away, and we've been seeing the weaknesses in it, and we've been strengthening those things in the Lord as those things come up. A couple things that happened last year, and this is personal, I'm sure John, my intro, might have a different answer in some ways, but I met a guy, Tad Trapp, at Blue Stem, and he's really added a lot of value to my life, but as a ministry as a whole. A lot of the stuff that God's taught him, he's infused into our ministry and into our hearts as a staff. John quoted him a couple times, and so that's been super beneficial. Some of those things are crazy prayer, holiness, faith, and surrender. Tad has really taught us those things, and that's been a huge kind of thing that has shook us as a staff over the last 12 months. Another thing is Vivian, her boyfriend, came in from Switzerland? And Etienne, and he showed me this guy, Torben Sundergaard, who has all these YouTube videos. And anyways, long story short, he's in praying for healing for people. And so as a staff, we started, specifically John and I really started praying for healing for people last year, mainly second semester, and people started getting physically healed. And so that was a huge thing that God kind of shook us, and we started to see the power of God moving through us, which is really, really cool. And then Anna. In October or November, she sent me an email randomly, and this is after Tad and after Torben, and I was well, sometimes God works in threes, so I'll email her back. And I guess out of how many churches did you send it out to?
The letter?
The email.
So I sent more than 100 letters for all around the Central States.
Yeah, so all around the Central States, and I was the only one who emailed back.
Till today.
Till today, so yeah. And so we've been praying for years for a full-time staff person who is a woman, who could really be a part of our team and add kind of breadth and depth to our team. And God kind of just plopped her in our laps. And so So, as you can see, there's been kind of like multiple things going on over the last 12 months that God's been kind of shaking the foundations, and Anna's brought things into our team that are different from what we're used to. And we're having to, like, once again, things being shaken of, like, are these things of the Lord in our staff, or do we need to be matured in areas and surrendered to Him? And so, specifically, what that looked like also was me and Trill started doing a prayer time on Wednesday mornings in January. And started just praying for vision, praying for wisdom for our team, for our church, praying for you guys individually, whether you knew it or not, for a couple hours every Wednesday morning. And over that prayer time, we started to I started to get a lot of vision from the Lord about things. We were asking for it, He started giving it, right? James 1 says, if you ask for wisdom, we'll give it, if you do it confidently, and He did. And so there's been incredible clarity in our church over the last 6 months as we started really laboring in prayer to the Lord. And we really, sitting in this room today, this is encouraging. We have a clear vision that I've felt probably for years at Ignatius. We have a clear vision for it than we've ever had. And so we're super encouraged as a staff moving forward, and we're excited to kind of like invite you guys into what God's been saying as well. So kind of we have kind of a vision statement, and this is kind of what and once again, vision statements. We did one anyways. So this is kind of the vision statement that it might have little tweaks, but this is what we're really trying to do. As a church, we lead people to develop a surrendered, life-giving, and faith-filled relationship with Jesus Christ that overflows in authentic love for Him, His church, and every city across the world for a lifetime. And so that's kind of the vision statement that we've talked about, specifically John and I talking a lot about it moving forward. And so we see 3 things that we're doing. So we're obviously just hoping to lead you guys further towards Christ. And then we see 3 pathways as you graduate or get out of college. Number 1, we see God leading us to start planting house churches in other cities. I have a couple people, one specific guy who graduated, who's praying about starting a house church in Wichita right now. And so that's really exciting. There's other people who I have in my mind who potentially could be starting house churches in other cities. So that's kind of a really fun thing I think God's opened our mind to is why would you guys learn all this stuff and grow in Christ and then just like not go plant a house church? You know, it's not hard. You don't need money for it. You just start loving people and caring for people and sharing the gospel. So that's one thing that our minds are open to is planting house churches in other cities when you graduate. Number 2, building a church. We do not want to be a campus ministry. We look more like one right now, but God has slowly been directing people to Manhattan, keeping people after they graduate to pretty much become a part of an adult group in our church. And I think He's going to continue to do that over the next couple years. And so that is totally a part of our vision, is building a multi-generational church. But we don't want to do that by just adding in randos who are older. We want to build it from the ground up, really from the inside, so we have a strong core. And so we're continuing to labor and prayer daily for that, to build a church. And number 3, there's totally a vision for going and blessing other churches as well with the things that you've learned here. So you graduate, you have an awesome church in Wichita or KC or wherever, go back there and add value to that church. And so anyways, does that make sense? That's kind of like, we really think God's been expanding our vision to all these different areas. As a staff, to get a little bit more in depth, I wanted to just tell you what everybody's role is. So pretty much in this next season, I'm going to be moving into more of an organizational leadership, kind of high-level leadership of kind of the church and stuff like that. With John being like right-hand man together, us working together and all of that stuff. John, he has incredible gifting as a pastor and teacher, specifically as a teacher even, and so John's going to be teaching a lot more. Even one thing that he's going to be doing is starting an Old Testament survey class and a New Testament survey class in the fall over the next 2 years. And so we're going to try to really get John into more teaching because we really think God's gifted him at that. Anna is similar. We think she has a gifting in teaching as well. And so she will be working this semester. She's going to be teaching a Christian growth class on how to grow as a Christian. So we're really excited about that. And then probably next semester we'll start to think about rotating her in with more CT, stuff like that. So teaching will be her main thing. Trill, his main role is he is no longer an apprentice. Trill is now on staff at Ignatius. And so he's also doing seminary right now. So he'll be doing seminary and staff together starting in October. But Trill is the equipping guy. So all classes, all equipping things that we do, Trill is leading all of those efforts, which he's going to come up and talk about what we're going to be doing equipping-wise over the next 12 months. So that's a huge role for him. Joe is an apprentice, and he is doing ministry houses. So Joe's really going to try to firm up and strengthen our ministry houses. There's been some real weakness in the past in those. And so Joe's kind of taken on that responsibility of figuring out how we can have quality ministry houses where people are really loving each other and really sharing Christ with each other and the outside community outside of that. So we're really excited about that. He's going to do a great job. He's the most experienced ministry house person we have. So I'm like, there's no one who knows ministry houses better than Joe. So this is perfect. And then also, on top of that, another one of the big roles for Joe is central teaching. He'll be kind of leading central teaching, making sure everything's working, worship and the teachings and just all the stuff, tech in the back. He'll be kind of leading that, making sure everything's good at central teaching. Kate Glow is going to be, well, she has to fundraise first, so she's not official yet, but she is pursuing the apprenticeship as well. And if she gets fundraised, then she will be in, which I think she'll be fine. She has a role in service. And so service is something we've talked about as a church a bunch, and we're just like, we just need to do, we need to do better at service. We just do terrible at serving the community, honestly. And so Kate is super passionate about that, super passionate. So she's really going to do a great job of kind of hopefully casting vision and leading us. How can we serve the community? And we're trying to take roles like I'm getting the big brother from Big Brothers Big Sisters, and we're trying to take steps in a little brother. In the big brother, I decided to try it out. I wanted to try it out before I did, just get the experience for myself. No, so I'm getting a little brother, and like I'm sure others will, and so we really want to be involved in the community. Also, Kayla will be doing retreats and trips and events as well on top of that, so she'll be doing administrative stuff with that. So Kate had to go to No, not Caleb.
He's like, what? You're on staff now?
So any questions on that? Any questions? Is that clarified? You kind of get like what the staff team looks like and what everybody's kind of working on? Cool. Yeah, just you should probably know what people are doing. It's probably important. A couple things in our structures. So in May, we kind of, as a team during our strategic planning week, literally laid everything we do as a church on the table and said, what of these has the life of Christ in it, and which of these has is a dead structure? And we were very harsh in that time about things. Were like, no, X and that, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. So we really are trying to cut down things and only do things in our church that are life-giving, beneficial, that add value to the people in the church. We don't want to be, as Anna says, a religious organization that sets out a bunch of things for you to do that makes you religious. That's not what we believe. And so a couple things that kind of stuck out in that conversation is, number one, in discipleship, one thing God's been teaching us is that we're all equals under Christ. We really feel like discipleship has become a hierarchy in Ignatius, and people kind of view it as, well, I'm a sophomore and you're a freshman, so I'm spiritual and you're not. Or we're like, this is discipleship's like a position reality. I have a position of authority over you. That's not how it's ever supposed to be, ever, The only authority that God kind of puts in the church is elders. And that's a way lengthier process than starting to disciple someone. Way higher standards. So we really just to tell you guys, we really want you guys to infuse vision that discipleship is not a position higher than or anything like that. We're all on the same page. When I'm discipling Seaver, we're right here. This is where we're at. And so that's a key thing that I think we need to understand moving forward. Cell group. We've been talking a lot about cell group. We think a lot of cell groups are like, this is a really beneficial time, but at the same time, we're open if people are like, hey, I'd like to do it more organic, like we kind of just, instead of planning it every week, we kind of just, let's do a prayer meeting this week, or let's do this thing this week. We just really want cell to be more open for each house church to specifically be like, we think we should do this in cell, or we think we should do this, instead of having you have to go about this in cell. So I guess more flexibility in cell group would be another thing. House church, we think that's awesome. Yeah, there wasn't much of that. We're like, we think house church is a good structure. Yeah, just go on. We're not doing it anymore.
We nixed it.
Equipping classes, we really view equipping as kind of like, when you're, I can't say I've never done this, but if you're running a marathon.
When you're running
if you're running a marathon, I go a mile and I stop. I'm done after that. But there's people handing water cups to you as you're kind of going by.
How would you know, man?
I've seen it happen, okay? Come on. I've seen it in the movies. What's the Prefontaine?
Prefontaine,
yeah. I think it was that movie. We really want our equipping classes to be like water cups handing to you as you're going about your Christian life. And so we really want these equipping classes. When you come to them, you're encouraged, you're equipped to better go out and live your faith in your day-to-day life. And so we have, I'm going to invite Trope in a sec, some really awesome equipping classes that we really think will be a benefit to you guys in your own spiritual walk in the future. So we're pumped about equipping. We're adding a bunch of equipping stuff. Summer program. So starting this next summer, MSI is done, and we're starting a Manhattan summer program in Manhattan, Kansas over the summer. Yeah. And so we have been thinking about it for years, probably 2 or 3 years, and we just think that there's a really cool group as adults kind of grow up and stay in Manhattan over the summer. We can really build an awesome community in the summer and do a program here so we can all be together for sending our students off somewhere else to be equipped. And so that's starting this next summer, and Trill might talk a little bit more about that. So we're super excited about that. Retreats, it's awesome. It's awesome. Retreats-wise, we did do a women's and men's retreat in the fall. Normally, that was kind of how we did it. We are Xing those, and we're not doing a women's and men's retreat separate. We're doing a retreat together as a body.
Together as one.
Boo!
We're so segregated.
I totally didn't vote for that because
This retreat will now, what it is, it's gonna be called the Foundations Retreat, is what we're gonna call
Bringing back foundation.
it. Foundation, yeah, we're bringing the house church back. We're bringing it back. In this retreat, on a yearly basis, we'll have the goal of teaching you guys, but also new students, new freshmen who come in, what are the foundations of the Christian life? And so we're going to go over things like, who did God create you to be? What happened in sin in the beginning? Who is Jesus? And then what is the life? Well, what does new life look like? And so pretty much this retreat, at least this year, and probably in the future, will have a similar path, will be a retreat where you can invite people to, we can have a bunch of people go on it, and we can really just teach this is what the Christian life really looks like. And we'll hopefully really get people excited about growing in Christ, and then the Christian growth class starts the next week after the retreat. So it's kind of like a beginning, like seeing some stuff, and then the Christian growth class, you can jump right into that. So that's kind of cool. Central teaching, we're going through the book of Romans this year. Yeah. Yeah. So Romans, if you didn't know, Romans is Paul's most, or anybody's most, but Paul did it, most systematic description of pretty much the gospel ever. You know, like systematic? Okay, good. So anyways, we're going to be going through Romans 1 through 8 before Christmas, and then we're going to kind of finish out the book second semester. So that's going to be really awesome, really exciting. Yeah, that's going to be really cool. So if you want to know about growing in Christ, Romans is going to be great. 3 last quick things. The winter conference, which we've done, that's kind of up in the air right now. If we do it, Ichthus will kind of lead it. Midwest doesn't want to lead it anymore, and so we would pretty much lead it somehow if we did it. And so we want to do the winter conference, but we're just still figuring out some details on that. We did think of a topic, though, if we do it. My Whole Life for God is going to be the topic if we do the winter conference. So that can be pretty fun. We're trying to get more churches involved in it. It could be really cool. Prayer has been a huge thing. We want to pray more together, but don't know how / when best to do like prayer times, or if we just need to say, hey, everybody pray in your own time. So if you have any thoughts on that, we do a Wednesday morning prayer time already. but like that doesn't work for everybody. So anyways, that's something that we're really passionate about. We're doing a lot more. So if you have an idea that you're like, I think it'd be cool for us to do this with prayer, we would love to hear it. Cool. And the last thing is the website. We have kind of redone the website in some ways, and yeah, in everything, we have a new system that is way easier to sign up for like classes and everything. That's all on the website. And it's so easy. So easy. Yeah, come on, get excited. Is that what you're doing? Get excited. I don't think that's what you meant to say.
I don't know.
Oh, you do?
I'll go. It was broken, but it's I like it.
So anyway, so that's pretty fun. And one little side thing with that is Reagan is really thought it'd be really cool to do like Ichthus-wide intramurals.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so one of the things on the website is a link where you can click on, and there's all the intramurals, and you can sign up on the website for the different intramurals, and then Reagan will put the teams together, and we can do Ichthus-wide intramurals.
And you pay for it online.
She pays for
I will
it.
not pay for
And
it.
people reimburse her.
Reagan's charging a lot. It's $100
I'm
per person.
upcharging everyone. I'm making a profit.
But, so I think that'll be a really cool thing. So, wow, that's all I got on my list. But Trill's gonna come up and talk about equipment. Any questions about that subject?
I don't do sports, so
Oh, yeah.
I vote we do Ichthus art classes. I want that.
Do it.
That's actually.
Hey, if you want to pitch an idea, then I can put someone on the website for it. But you just gotta pitch it to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the one right now.
What even are
Good idea, Sheldon.
Guys, any more questions? Any more questions? Is that all pretty clear?
I have one question. Just about the Wednesday morning prayer. I feel like we didn't talk about it a whole lot in our cells. So what did that look like, or what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, and part of that was we were trying to actually do it for ourselves first, and be like, we're like, you guys should do this. Like, we wanted to actually like be in it ourselves. So that was part of why we didn't spread it around a bunch. Wednesday morning prayer, just like, what is that? So we get together at 7:30 to 9 is right now what we do, and we just pray. Right now it's kind of our staff is mainly, and maybe Cole came a little bit last semester. But anyways, we just pray. We just let the Spirit lead. There's not like an agenda for it. It's kind of just what's on our hearts, and we just pray. So I think you asked the question. I don't know why I was looking at that.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, is there still need for finances in Ichthus where people ought to be prepared to be faithfully tithing their incomes?
Yeah. So that still is true. And it's actually been, I'll just say this, it's been super encouraging because I've been praying. I mean, I always just pray for finances. That's one of the things on the list I want to pray for. And I've heard multiple people being like, anyways, just being very generous in cool ways, especially after the summer and like making money over it. And so, anyways, yes, we are a church, and whatever you guys give, that goes to pay for the budget and what you guys pretty much utilize in Ichthus. And then if there's any more on top of that from our church as a whole, then it goes to help us not have to fundraise quite as much money. And so it all goes to a really good cause. It's not like we're spending money on all this crazy stuff. So yes, there's always need for tithe and being faithful in that. Yeah, good question. That's on the website.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good one.
For sure. What time would you want to do that?
Like 6:30.
Cool. So the only reason why we did that is because we have a workout from 5:40 to 6:20, but I get to go at 5
Make
a.m.
it 3.
So yeah, we can
3
we can talk about
Down
that.
with that. Just go to sleep after that.
Any other questions?
Are we doing, what's CT, like before CT look like this year?
Oh yeah, good. Okay, good question. I forgot about that. So guys, here, this is really important. So on a weekly basis, this is kind of what the stuff that's scheduled is like you have your cell group, you have your house church. So that's your house church. You guys figure that stuff out. You guys figure it out.
You do it.
The only thing we're scheduling corporately is we decided to move equipping classes to before central teaching, to just have it be one night instead of like 2 different nights because that's just most people were like, I want just one night where I can go to equipping class and go to CT, that one night. And so anyway, so equipping classes will start at 5 o'clock on Thursdays. They'll start at 5 o'clock, they'll go to 6:30, and then there will be a 30-minute break where we're trying to figure out with the equipping classes how to get food provided. It might just be sandwiches, or I don't know, we'll figure it out. Pretty much you would have food as a part of the equipping class, so you don't have to like go get food somewhere. And so you can literally have a 30-minute break in between. We can pray for CT, hang out, and then CT starts at 7. So that's kind of what the schedule's look like, yeah.
Is that in this room?
Yep, equipping will be in here, and then we'll take 30 minutes to transition into CT. Cool.
And so
Yep.
then,
Yep. So we just really thought it'd be cool to just have it back to back, where like that's your night of kind of equipment.
Well, and we'll usually have it where, like the setup's gonna be slightly different for the equipping, and so when the equipping class is over, whoever's in that, just spending like 5 minutes
Yeah, to just
helping Trill and I like flip it back to how it looks for CT, and then having food.
So there will not be pre-CT prayer like there has been in the past.
There will be in terms of if you want to pray during that 30 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
so the time, I guess my question is just for worship, so it's just not.
Yeah, so worship will have to figure out a time outside of before CT to practice.
Yeah,
Talk to Joe.
I talked to him.
Joe, I mean,
You should.
That is
well, no, Molly will be, Molly's leaving. So Molly will figure it all out.
Molly will figure it all out. She's already talking to me about this stuff.
Yeah. What other questions do you guys have? What other questions? Cool. Wow. That's awesome. Okay. One last thing I'll say is one thing you guys said in the surveys. There's a lot of stuff that's really helpful that led to us kind of laid everything on the table. One thing was we should do a better job of advertising for Ichthus because we don't do anything. We just kind of do it and hope people talk to people. So we are doing, I signed up for the activities fair, so we're going to do the activities fair. And so even if you want to be a part of that, come in. It's going to be that Thursday night of Welcome Week. And so if you guys are like, that excites me to be a part of showing up and just being a part of that booth and telling people about Ichthus, and even like for your house church, like talking to people, maybe recruit people for your house church, freshmen or whatever, like you guys are invited to come to that booth and be there with us all together. So I think that's going to be really cool. Also, I'm wanting to set up booths at both dorm locations the first week of welcome. Kind of.
There's some strong.
Yeah, technically, but they filter. Both of those filter to the same spot. Van Zyl and those, and then the Haymaker. They all kind of filter down that path.
Matt was in college. Who knows?
Yeah. I went to Gay State. I understand.
Yeah.
I get it.
It hasn't changed that much in 10 years. Okay.
So anyways, so that's kind of another way that we're trying to do it is by putting those booths out, just letting people know we're not going to do the weird here, ask these Christian questions, and then, we're not going to do that stuff. We're just going to be like relational. We're just going to be relational and tell people about stuff. So anyway, so if you were wondering if we're going to do advertising, that's kind of what we're doing. We're also putting a one-page, just like little flyer on all the dorm floors that say, hey, we're Ichthus, we're a movement of house churches, we're going through the book of Romans at our CT, come check it out. So that's kind of what we're
Back to
doing.
what it was like. Hey, we're
Hey, we're
It's
Ichthus.
just a white.
Hey, we're Ichthus. We're a collection of house churches. We're going
That would be
to
hilarious.
Absolutely.
Yeah, quiet down, quiet
Sorry, I
down.
just started laughing because one time I was in my dorm freshman year and I saw an Ichthus thing and it had the house church names and like Armada and everything, and beneath it someone wrote Mango 7:30 p.m. like as a house church. Because our names were so strange.
Mango.
That's a great
Seven
name.
That's a new house church. New name. Get dying. Mango.
Nice.
Manga.
Any other questions? Any other questions, guys?
Sure.
If not, we're going to have Joe come up and just talk about the equipping, what equipping's going to look like.
Go.
You got it, Joe.
Woo!
Woo!
Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to add. Matt, you did a great job talking about stuff.
Hey, we see you.
But yeah, a lot of our vision, a lot of our goal, as most of you guys know, is to be high on equipping, recognizing that to know God requires knowing about God as well. So even as we go into the big picture of the Bible, which will be our first class, and you can see the dates if you have your handout in front of you. This will also be on the website, I think. Did I put this on the website? Probably not. Matt put it on the website. So we have these classes. The ones that we actually have would be the big picture of the Bible, and then we're pretty close to saying Christian growth will be happening for sure, correct? Or it is happening.
What?
Unless Anna forgets how to speak English, Christian growth should be happening. And yeah, the idea with having the classes prior to CT is sort of like, if you've ever heard of like Bible churches or whatever, or even other denominations. I don't know if they do it anymore, but I know they used to, is they would have Sunday school prior to sermons. So if you're a member of the church, you come in and you learn about some doctrine stuff that may not actually get covered when they're teaching through a book or whatever. So that's our goal. And if you didn't take a big picture of the Bible last year, it's awesome. Joe did a phenomenal job. We're going to continue to do that just so we understand the Bible more, so that when we come around in the spring, when John is helping lead the Old Testament survey class, we have a better understanding of how does the Old Testament kind of lead into the giant story of what the Bible is, and then we'll be able to dig into it more deeply. But honestly, other than that, the rest of it you'll see on here. 2019 and 20 summer classes, number 7. We're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to be talking about, but I can tell you, Matt and I specifically are tremendously excited about this next summer. I've been reading books on different religions, because I'm going to be kind of heading up the world religions class, and it's been a treat for me. It's been unbelievably frustrating, but it's been a treat, and I know that Matt's enjoyed studying church history stuff, and we're hoping to make that time of the summer program more enjoyable than just teachings. Not that that's what MSI was by any stretch of the imagination, but we're gonna be more in depth about actual topics. But we're hoping it to be as effective and as enjoyable, if not more so, than MSI is. But honestly, the rest of it you'll see on here what exactly that we are doing, what we're planning. Are there any questions on equipping stuff?
By survey, do you mean like surveying summary, or like survey? What usage of the word survey do you mean by Old Testament survey class?
Well, that survey, I didn't pick that word, so I'm not married to it. Generally, a survey in Bible school or even seminary just means, the broad sweep and kind of trying to cover things that are looking at it from a higher level, as opposed to specifically focusing on an issue, biblical theology or whatnot. So I'd say survey just kind of means general. But I don't know, we may come up with a better, if we come up with a better title, we may change it.
Because I think the point of the Old Testament and New Testament surveys is kind of like a sequel to Big Picture of the Bible. Like, we wouldn't recommend taking the Old Testament survey before taking Big Picture of the Bible. Because like in Big Picture of the Bible, we're going to cover like 25 books in a class. And like books such as Daniel, I'm not going to be able to cover for more than 15 minutes. And so classes like John's Old Testament survey are going to take like Daniel and be like, hey, we're going to break that down in like a class. So you get a full 2 hours to like talk about a certain book as it applies like to the big picture.
And you gotta remember that every single thing that we do equipping is to further educate us so that we can read through the Bible and feed ourselves and others better. So like, I'm sure we will have many goals with the Old Testament survey class, but ultimately the greatest goal that we could have is if you could go through it and then read through numbers and find like the depth and the love of God in there and see how it points to Christ.
And that's well said, because even what Joe said, you can think about it, there's 39 books in the Old Testament and so on. It's like, and we've got 10 weeks and there's all sorts of other stuff. So it will be probably a specific focus that, but it always would be illustrative to what Matt's talking about.
Right.
How can we equip you to better place things in the full story and to be able to engage with numbers or anything and see it in light of the broad high level sweeping things. So that's good.
Yeah, and also even to go along with what we're learning right now, how can we understand the love of God? How can we surrender to God? How can we love others unless we are in the Word of what He's told us and understanding it as well. But I think that's all we got.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing with the summer program, and then we can be done.
Okay.
So the summer program, just to give you a little more detail about it, the goal, our shift with MSI is we believe that not everybody can do a summer program. Like, that's just the reality. And so we want to put the main core classes during the school year so everybody can do those. And then the summer classes will be more like cherry on top realities, where it's like church history. Super important to know history about the church. Not as important as Christian growth. Not as important as knowing the Bible. But really important. World religions, really important to know, but not as important as these other core classes. So that's kind of how we're doing it now, is equipping. The core will be during the school year. The cherry on top is over the summer. And so you're able to work 40 hours a week with the summer program. You're able to work all summer in Manhattan and still make money. So most people are in college debt. We want you to be able to make money. And so that's kind of how the summer program's going, is the classes are nighttime classes. They're not during the day, so then even adults can attend them as well who are working full-time jobs. So it's kind of our whole community can come together over the summer. Or weekend, depending on what we're doing. So anyways, yeah, the summer program, it's at the highest, it's probably going to cost around $500. And the reason for that is because we're going to take a trip to Xenos, and then for the summer conference, and we're going to go up and go to the theme park up there, Cedar Point. It's the best roller coasters in the world, and so we're going to do that over summer. So the $500 calculates in like that. But if you don't want to do the Xenos trip, then it's $250. And the other thing is, we have a fireworks stand we're probably going to run next summer in Junction City through someone. And so what I'm thinking is, if you didn't have the money, we could figure out a scholarship for you first. Or you can work the fireworks stand, and if you work the fireworks stand, it's free. The summer's free. So we're trying to figure out multiple options for all people. If you don't want to work over the summer, we want to encourage people to volunteer their time at like somewhere in Manhattan to serve the community. That could be a really cool opportunity. If you're like, I don't need to work, my parents are paying for college. It's like, we'll take a summer to volunteer and just like serve an organization in Manhattan for the summer. So anyways, summer's going to be freaking awesome. Our goal is 20 to 30 people next summer to be a part of the summer program and really just like kick it off the right way. And for all this stuff, signups are open. So you can go on today and sign up for whatever you want to on the website. So yeah.
The dates on.
And the dates are all on there too.
Do you have to sign up and pay at the same time?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I make sure you don't do that.
We
No,
can set
you
it.
can literally go through, sign up for everything, but be like, I don't have the money for it right now,
Okay.
and we see that you haven't paid, the like.
We'll
just
set up a
contact you.
payment plan with high interest rates.
So if I can't pay the intramural $2.
Yeah, no. I knew that's what you were asking.
Yeah.
I knew that's what you were asking about. So I'd encourage you to go on, honestly, and sign up for stuff even today, and just be like, I want to do this class and this class, because it'll be really fun. But yeah, we got 1 hour left, so we're gonna jump back into Anna.
I won't take an hour, I promise.
Do it.
So, hey, actually, let me just pray for us after that, and then